Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're so happy to have you here. And I just want to start off by giving you an overview of our time together. This entire webinar will just be about 45 minutes. So in a second, I'll start off by introducing myself and giving you some more information about BC and our goal for this webinar. And then I'll have our panelists that you see here introduce themselves, and that'll take us straight into the Q&A portion of the webinar. So I do just want to direct your attention to the Q&A function that you have like on the bottom toolbar. Feel free to submit your questions just as they come to you when it's if it's when I'm introducing myself or if something comes to mind while we're answering questions, things like that. We really want to be here to answer your questions. And then we'll also be typing some answers just to try to get to as many questions as possible. And just so you know, the session will be recorded and the recording will also be available on our website a little bit later. So if you do have to step away for a second or anything, that'll be on the BC admissions website. So like I said, I wanted to start off by introducing myself. My name is Jen Lozano. I'm currently a junior, originally from Orlando, Florida. I'm studying applied psychology and human development in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. And I have a double major in political science in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. So I am the AHANA coordinator in the student admissions program, which is a volunteer-based program where we do these tours, panels, webinars, things like that. And for those of you that may not know what AHANA means, it's a term we use here at BC for students that identify as African American, Hispanic, Asian, Native American plus. So that's just the term we use. And really what we're doing here today is we're going to talk about the AHANA student experience as it relates to finding your major and kind of navigating all the different majors that we have to offer here at BC. And so to give you a little bit more insight about BC, in case you haven't been able to visit, BC is located in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. So that's just 6 miles right outside of the city of Boston. And honestly, coming from Florida, it was such an amazing opportunity to have like a city so close and so accessible through transportation as well. So it's a relatively suburban area, which is also really nice because you don't feel like crowded in the city, but you also have that college campus. So again, being able to build that sense of community because of the type of campus we have and where we're located in relation to the city of Boston. We have public transportation, like I mentioned, going all around. And it's really nice because you feel, again, like you're a part of such a big city, which goes to our size. So BC has about 9,400 undergraduate students, so that makes us a medium-sized school. I honestly think it's the perfect size. We're not too big, we're not too small, just right in the middle. And with that, I also wanted to briefly touch a little bit on academics, because obviously we're going to be talking about majors and everything like that. So our students are split across 4 main academic divisions. So the first one is the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. That houses about 2/3 of our students. It has over 30 majors, 19 interdisciplinary minors, and you'll definitely hear a little bit more about that one. We also have the Carroll School of Management. That's our next largest school. So students major in management and choose a concentration in one of 13 different options. So we have finance, business analytics, accounting, and a bunch of others. Then we have the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I mentioned I'm in that one as well. So there's 4 main majors in there. You have elementary education, secondary education, transformative educational studies, and applied psychology and human development. The nice thing about the Lynch School, it's one of our pre-professional schools. It is smaller as well. And that allows us to have a practicum requirement. It's kind of like an internship, but you're able to get that hands-on experience during your junior or senior year. So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to next semester. Finally, we have the Canal School of Nursing. So there's about 100 students or so in each class. The Canal School of Nursing also gets you that hands-on experience, which is amazing because it is affiliated with over 85 healthcare facilities. And that includes major teaching hospitals like Boston Children's, Massachusetts General Hospital, and a bunch of other in the area, which again ties into our location because we are able to have access to those. It's really amazing for students who get to start their clinical rotations during their sophomore spring and then continue on for the rest of their years. One last piece I wanted to touch on right before we have our panelists introduce themselves is part of our identity as a Jesuit Catholic institution. So BC is a private Jesuit Catholic institution, which may not mean anything to you, or you may know a little bit about it. I certainly did not know much coming to BC. but it's definitely an identity that's tied into the social and academic life. And the way I see this is through service, through mentorship, through conversations and dialogues and things like that, which is really amazing. And if you have any specific questions on that, you can feel free to put those in the Q&A as well. That's just a broad overview of BC. But we're focusing again on the AHANA student experience and the process of finding your major. So I do want to just have our panelists start off by introducing themselves. You could say, obviously, your name, where you're from, your year, your school, your major, and then what drew you to the major that you have now. So Armani, do you mind starting us off, please?
Yeah, of course. So good evening, everybody. My name is Armani Mitchell. I'm a senior here at BC, studying applied psychology in our Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I also have a minor in marketing in our Carroll School of Management. I'm from the Bronx, New York. Pretty much what drew me to my major was actually a mentor I had named Roberto. He was just somebody I looked up to a lot at BC. And when I came into BC, actually in the Carroll School of Management, and I wasn't as satisfied with the trajectory of my education. And just through conversations with him, he was also somebody from the Bronx, New York. He talked about just like the passion and love that he had for his major as an applied psych major. I was like, whoa, this like sounds really cool. So just through like a lot of conversation with him, that definitely drew me to it. But what kept me there was just the amount of like care that your professors have for you, the community that they have in the classrooms, and this opportunity to talk about topics that are important to me, but also just building on skill sets that I felt will take me very far when I do leave BC.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jarvis. I'm a sophomore from Houston, Texas. I'm majoring in political science, and I also have a minor in finance. I definitely have to say the thing that drew me to political science was originally I had an idea that I was going to be like this big politician when I was little and like have that fancy job and all the glamour and whatever that came with it. But then after like kind of learning what the major was about, I really found a love and passion for like the aim and the goal of political science, which is basically just to identify the best way people live with each other. And so, you know, you always have that question of can't we all just get along? And so political science really plays a role in kind of the founding documents and the founding political ideas that kind of led us to either, you know, being together or being separate. And so I was really interested in that. So I just kind of declared it my major. And then I've always had a love for numbers and I always want to be financially literate. It's something that I think the African American community and Black community as a whole should be more abreast about. And so I thought it was pertinent that I also receive some kind of education in the finance arena as well. So.
Thank you, Jarvis. Hi, my name is Michaela Sanchez. I apologize for my voice. I was screaming so much at the football game last night that it's just gone, but I'm going to try to do my best. My name is Michaela again. I am a junior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, double majoring in sociology and history, and I'm originally from Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, which is like central Jersey-ish. So the way that I came to find my major, I actually came in intending to be a political science major like Jarvis, but I took a class, it wasn't my favorite thing ever, but I was in a class called Introduction to Latin American Societies with Professor Gustavo Morello, one of our Jesuit professors here at BC. He's originally from Argentina, and I love that I could bond with him over feeling like I'm at home when I'm speaking to him because I am Dominican and Colombian. So taking that class was a real nice transition from being at home with my family to being here at BC and having a community of people that kind of like looked like me and thought like me, but also had different perspectives as well. So I absolutely love that class and it satisfied my cultural diversity core requirements. So as a Jesuit school, we really care about like the liberal arts education and having different perspectives, different ideas, like learning. Like the core curriculum includes things from natural science to history, sociology, everything like that. So satisfying my cultural diversity through this class was amazing because it opened my eyes to sociology. I remember I talked to Professor Morello after class a couple times, asking about what else he was teaching in the future. And I was talking to him about how much I loved the sociological aspects of our class, the historical aspects that combine economics, culture, ethnicity. It was awesome. So from that class, I knew I wanted to study sociology and I continued to take classes from that point on.
Hi everyone, my name is Saina Mashmasarmi. I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts, and I'm a senior majoring in sociology in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. What drew me to sociology is partially what Michaela said about how it just combines, like I had a lot of different interests coming into college, from poli-sci to history. I took an econ class and was like, oh, this is fun. And I was just trying to find a way to combine all those different interests and find one focus area. And sociology seemed like the best way to do that. And it also just seems so broad that it could be apply to literally anything I wanted to do after college. And that also really appealed to me.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And again, just wanted to direct your attention to the Q&A function. You can go ahead and start putting in like any questions you have or any thoughts, things like that. But I have a question to start us off. So we have a core curriculum here at BC. It's 15 credits spread across 10 academic disciplines. So I was wondering if one or two of you want to talk a little bit about your experience with the core curriculum, if that helped you kind of figuring out your major, if it's just been something completely different for you, or any thoughts on it.
I could start. Originally, I came in with a bad perception of the core curriculum just because it kind of tells you what you have to do over the course of 4 years. But I really think it's a great resource if you're not really certain what it is that you want to do. You're going to have a wide variety of different topics. You're going to get a taste of the natural science, the taste of the social science. You get a taste of all the humanities, which really allow you to see, is the idea or the perception of what I thought I wanted to do really solidified through the coursework that you take in those kind of founding classes. And so I think it's a great resource for those that really don't know what they want to do, but can test different areas without necessarily committing to that particular subject or major.
Yes, I kind of touched on this a little bit before, but satisfying my cultural diversity requirement is what pushed me towards taking sociology. It also counts as a social science part of our core curriculum. And I didn't take any sociology classes in high school or anything like that. I knew I wanted to study history, so that was already solidified because I'm pre-law and I think I want to go that way. But the core definitely pushed me to take a class that had to do with sociological topics, and that's what landed me where I am today. Like I might not have ever taken that class if it wasn't for the core curriculum and my advisor during orientation, which happens the summer before you're a freshman. My advisor recommended that class and that professor. So my advisor and also the core curriculum pushed me into like the major that I have right now.
Yeah, Michaela, you bring up a good point with advising. I know Armani also talked about like the care that you were given and trying to like figure out your major and everything. So I'd love to know a little bit about advising, especially for like first year students or like switching into majors or things like that. How does advising work here? Or what are your thoughts? Have you found help outside of just like official advising, things like that?
Yeah, I definitely had some just like some amazing mentors through like faculty and staff at BC who've been able to just help me navigate that process. Just like as a first generation student, I didn't really have much like experience or understanding of like like what like these required classes look like between like core, my major, my minor, electives, like what were the differences between these things, how my credits worked and stuff like that. So I've been easily able to like reach out to like different like professors I've had or just like different just like mentors. Like I would say like one of my favorite people on campus, Amy Lacombe. I met her like very indirectly. I don't know, to this day, I don't know exactly what it was, but I remember I was taking this like year-long calculus class to fulfill my math core, which I did not need to be in, but like I was taking it and I just didn't know because calculus was just a class I seen in high school. It seemed familiar, so I was taking it, but it didn't really have much significance to me. And it was just literally like one day she emailed me. She's like, "Hey, Armani, I don't think you really need this class. Let's find you another one." And just from there, like she was so right. Thank God I did not take that year-long calc class. But it also kind of encouraged and started like one of like the greatest relationships I have on BC's campus from there. So people are definitely willing to help you out when they see you in need, and once like especially like once you're asking. But there are times when people do see that you need help. They're definitely there to help you. So advising, I can see from my own experience, advising has been amazing. I've found a lot of great people who are just willing to like give me that helping hand.
Yeah, no. And honestly, the nice thing is too that when you are picking your classes, you do have kind of this unofficial advisor, especially your freshman year, and then you're assigned your entire first year advisor. And once you do declare your major by the end of your sophomore year is when you have to have that like decided. That is when you'll have a major specific advisor. So there's definitely people, but then there's also all those unofficial resources that we have here on campus. And just because I brought up the idea of resources and advising and everything, are there any resources to kind of like help figure out, or offices or clubs to help figure out either what you want to do, like what your interests are, whether that's academically or career wise, anything like that around campus that you've used or you know of?
Yes, so the Career Center has been a huge help for me. When I came in freshman year, I think there was a question about coming in undecided. I was thinking political science. You can totally come into BC undecided. I think even if you come in decided, it doesn't mean that's what you're going to end up doing anyway. But I went my freshman year, I took like a Myers-Briggs test, which basically is just like telling you about like all your different interests. So I didn't even know what I was interested in at the time. So I started there and started to build up my like building blocks a little bit to kind of think about what I want to do in the future. And I know I spoke to multiple advisors there. The head of the Career Center, Joe DuPont, is like the most amazing person ever. Sometimes I get coffee with him, just talk about my interests, what I might want to do in the upcoming summers. And I actually attended a panel my end of my freshman year. It was an online panel. And it was called Women in Law. And I got connected with a BC law grad, and her name is Jennifer Seraphin, and she's the head of the Civil Rights Unit at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston. And I got connected with her. And then I did another program called Endeavor in my sophomore year, and that happens usually during winter break, and it was online for us, but it's usually in person, and you get to connect with employers, grads from BC and things like that. So I saw Jennifer online again, and I was like, oh, how are you? I reconnected with her. BC alum are always very, very willing for students to reach out to them. So we had a couple conversations, and she really encouraged me to apply to be an intern at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I went through that whole process and I got it. So I've been at the Attorney's Office since end of July. I go like twice a week, and that's really cool because I get to have some like hands-on experience. And I know BC doesn't have like a formal co-op like other schools do in the area, but there are those opportunities to pursue if that's something that you're interested in. And I think one, starting off and just going to the Career Center, and two, being willing to reach out to people that are also like willing to help you is really important. And it was something that really helped me going through the Career Center, definitely.
For sure, thank you. We had a good question. Obviously, we've talked about switching majors and having double majors or minors. How easy is it to switch between majors or even to pick up a minor or things like that?
In my experience, it's been very easy. I've switched a couple of times. I started off being a history major officially, and then I switched to being a poli-sci major, and then landed on being a sociology major. And typically what it involves is just going into the office of that department and asking them to declare you that major or to undeclare you that major. And it's as easy as it. Yeah.
And that's the nice thing, is that there's so many different like people that you can talk to about it beforehand. They like talk you through it. And then once you go to the office, like Sayina was mentioning, it's pretty simple. It's just like an online type of thing. Usually what admissions counselors like to say is that if you have any like slight interest or inkling that you may want to be in one of our 3 pre-professional schools, so the Carroll School of Management, the Canal School of Nursing, or the Lynch School of Education, we would recommend applying directly into one of those just because they're a little bit smaller. So switching into those a little bit later might be more difficult just based off of space. Like it's not as guaranteed as it would be for the College of Arts and Sciences just because it's so much larger. But that doesn't mean at all that you cannot do that. It just might make it a little bit more difficult. So that's just a piece of advice. So I also wanted to ask a little bit about what you would say to someone who is completely undecided. If you had any piece of advice to give them. Obviously, we've all been interested in maybe different things, different classes, things like that. But if each of you could say something to someone that has no idea what they want to do, what would you like to tell them?
I can start off. I definitely would say to just think about what really makes you passionate, what you're really, you feel strongly about. You can have strong conversations and engage in conflict and kind of, like problematic conversations with the opposing view of what you're passionate about. Because if you come in with those kind of mindsets and those ideas, you can talk to them we have all these resources. You can talk to someone and I'm sure they'd be able to point you in that general direction, but you don't have to get so caught up in the like actual name of the major or the name of the program, because those ideas could be scattered. And so just coming in with an open mind, but still kind of having those concepts at the forefront of your mind is something I'd say.
Yeah, I think a common misconception that I've like heard and even thought a couple times is like when you're registering for classes and you're taking classes, you feel like you're gonna like waste a spot or like you're gonna waste a class. Like, why am I taking this when I could be taking something else? And I think having like our open liberal arts curriculum where we do have core classes that you can take, even if it's a class that you already fulfilled a core class for it, but you still want to take a class. It's never a waste to take something, because let's say you take it and you don't like it, at least now you know that that's not something you want to pursue in the future. But I think it's really nice that you can come in and take a lot of different classes. Nothing's a waste. You're going to get credit for it regardless. And you can like explore different areas. I know you can check online to see like the AP and IB test scores for BC. So for us, at our school, we don't take AP and IB credit and count it towards like college credit, but you can use those scores to test out of different core curriculum classes. For example, like if you take AP Lit and you get a 4 or 5, I think it is, then you wouldn't have to take the literature requirement when you come to BC. So that again opens up your schedule if you're worried about wasting classes, which isn't a thing at all. But if you want to have more time to take electives, that's definitely an option. About 1/3 of our students end up double majoring. So that allows you to take more classes to major or minor. But that's something to look forward to as well, I think. But yeah, the big message I think is that no classes and no experience in college is waste.
This is also a big one too. Something I love telling like freshmen and sophomores especially, is that pretty much your major does not dictate your professional trajectory. I feel like there's a lot of times there's like a pressure that our majors has to directly align with who we want to be, what we want to do, or whatever that may mean to you. But for a lot of people in the world, like that is not the case. I have met English majors who are investment makers, and I've met finance majors who ended up being teachers, and everything in between that as well. So it is okay to not necessarily have your major directly align with like who you want to be, or if you don't know what that is amazing too. But I would definitely recommend just making sure you are, like Jarvis mentioned earlier, just finding something that you are passionate about, something you care to learn about, and everything will work itself out from there.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would have to add is just to lean into the unknowing and to take advantage of not knowing what you want to do. Like it's really lucky to go when BC is really nice because at the core, it gives you the opportunity to explore different areas. And so because you don't know what exactly you want to do, it's a good chance to just and do what you like. And then in addition to that, you don't have to just rely on the academic part. You can also take advantage of volunteering, internships, clubs, which might also be a good way to find out what you're interested in and what you're really passionate about, which is helpful when you're trying to find a major.
For sure, I totally agree with everything. And I think like that's the hard thing. Freshman year, there's a lot going on. You may think you love math and science and then figure out, oh, you want to go a different route or things like that. And there's so many people to support that. And again, everyone's kind of going through the same thing and kind of figuring everything out. I do want to take a step back and like away from talking about majors a little bit and talking a little bit about some of the questions that are being brought up right now. So this is kind of within the classroom setting. I'd love to know a little bit about kind of what the usual class sizes are, like what type of atmosphere is in a class, like is it super lecture based or more discussion based, and what your experience with those have been.
I can take it. So our average class size is about 27 students. Usually you'll see like at a lot of different schools, especially BC, freshman year, you might have like larger lecture styles classes. I took psych has been my largest class, psychology. There's always like Econ 101 that's pretty big. There's like Chem 101 that's pretty big. But as you get like further into your major, your classes definitely get smaller. And just because you might have a couple of those like bigger lectures throughout your time at BC doesn't mean that those smaller, more intimate classrooms don't exist. I think probably 4 out of 5 of my classes first semester freshman year felt like I was in high school. They were smaller. My Spanish class was probably around maybe like 17 kids, so definitely smaller on the average side. But even when you have those larger lectures, you usually have like a breakout session once a week where you get to meet with a professor or a TA and go over the questions if you feel uncomfortable asking them in a bigger setting. But regardless, like professors always have their doors open to you. There has been plenty of professors that have made it mandatory for me to go to office hours, like for extra credit or whatever, because they really want you to come in, talk to them. I remember when I talked to one of my freshman year professors, he was asking me about my roommates, my rooming situation, things like that. So it's not always about just like academic questions, and professors really want to make that connection, especially when it is a larger class. They want to be able to make you feel comfortable asking questions and coming to them. So yeah, I think professors make it a point to have like that intimate, like professional relationship with you, but also have those smaller breakout sessions if you need to ask any questions.
And we also got some questions about, I mean, the entire first year transition in general. You're meeting new people, you're interacting with new people. How did you all make friends? Like, how was that? Was that something that you found super easy, super hard? Did you find any resources? Kind of what that experience is like for you?
I would say for me, now that I think about it, I guess like a lot of my friends either came from like the floor I lived on, or just like some of the things I got involved in, or just like through mutual friends. Um, I think like in college, like I mean, at least in high school, I can speak for myself. I had like the picture in my head that like, oh, I'm gonna go into class and meet like 5 amazing people, and these are gonna be like my best friends, and I'm meeting like through academics. But it's not always like that. College is definitely like a multifaceted experience. Like you have your personal life, you have your academic life, you have the extracurricular side of you, and everything else in between that. So like my freshman year, I lived on MLE, which is the multicultural living experience. And that was an amazing space for me to help with my adjustment to BC. Pretty much was a floor, well, it was 2 floors, a male and a woman's floor dedicated to people of color. So just like a lot of people with some experiences similar to mine, but also different experiences. And with just a space where I was able to learn from different people, share different experiences with others as well. So that was definitely one space where I made a lot of my friends that I'm still very close to.
Someone else want to add about how they made friends or where they found it easiest in that transition?
I kind of found all my friends in the dining hall because COVID year, my freshman year was kind of stringent on the social activities that we could engage in. The dining hall was that one thing that was kind of always open for people to just stop by and make friends. And so that's kind of how I met some of my closest friends, just in the lunch line, talking to people in the dinner tables and all that. So not that glamorous, but that's how mine came.
That's a nice thing, honestly, that you run into people at the dining hall, you kind of sit down really quickly as a break, and you see that a lot around campus. I also know that we do have 2 RAs, or Saina was my RA in my freshman year too on here. So not to put you both on the spot, but if you want to talk a little bit about what RAs are, what residence assistants are like, and how that helped you in your transition to in general, or how you've seen it helped others.
Yeah, so a resident assistant is basically, we supervise the floor, make sure all the policies are being followed, and then make sure you're all safe. And then we also help to build community on the floor. We host programs. Well, in the first year area, they're typically weekly, just to help you all get to know each other and form that sense of community. And that's typically, in my experience, where with my residents, that's where they find most of their friends in the floor, either amongst their roommates or like they form a small friend group. And then also with other members of the community.
Sure, thank you. And Armani, you were touching on this a little bit with MLE and your experience in MLE, but we did get a question about if you all think that you have been able to meet people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different like races, and kind of see that diversity in thought in classes, or what your experience has been with kind of interacting with people from all over.
Can you repeat the question? So are you saying like just
Yeah, like have you had that experience, like being able to kind of interact with people from different backgrounds, or have you found it harder to, or things like that?
Well, so from my experience, I can say I definitely do gravitate towards people who look like me. So a lot of my friends are Black, and that is something I do definitely appreciate, especially going to a predominantly white institution. Just having people who have, once again, like similar experiences than me, but even though they do look like me, we also are all different people. But it is great to just like have a strong like Black community and strong Black network for me. So that has been a blessing. But I definitely have been able to make friends and just meet people of different backgrounds as well. But it definitely has been also like through different spaces. Like a lot of like my Black friends I had, like I've made from MLE, or just like different clubs I was involved in, that like were AHANA clubs and stuff like that. When it comes to like meeting friends from like different races who are white, or just like, or POC, or people of color, but just from other races, maybe from like class or through mutual friends and stuff like that. So I'll just say definitely dependent like on the spaces I occupied, but definitely have had the opportunity just to like network and meet different people, and it has been a great experience. I think BC people are generally like pretty open to just like that cultural exchange. So it has been an awesome opportunity just to like meet and learn so many different people.
Awesome. So I want to bring us back a little bit just to academics and majors and things like that. So when we think of like the classes that you've taken within your majors and things like that, I'd love to know, what is one of your favorite classes? What can people look forward to if they're majoring in any of our majors or things like that?
So poli-sci major again. The first two courses that we had to take, they're introductory courses, are either the Introduction to Comparative Politics or Introduction to International Politics. I took comparative, and then I also had to take Fundamental Concepts of Politics. So once I got those two out of the way, then I can move into the actual political science core. And so the first class that I chose just happens to be one of my favorites so far. It's called The Question of Justice. And so basically what it asks us to do is define what justice is. I thought it would be a, pretty simple, straightforward class, just get that dictionary definition integrated. But we've had a lot of different political readings from ancient political and Greek philosophers, which have really like shaped our understanding of justice. And so the final project will be to define justice for ourselves. And so it's going to be interesting to see at the end of the year when we present what everyone's kind of perception and view of justice is. And so that's why that's my favorite class so far.
I've taken similar classes with a similar theme, and they've been my favorite as well. I took one class, so history majors have to take a class called Study and Writing. It's basically like a writing intensive class where you learn how to use like Chicago formatting and learn how to write, use footnotes, primary sources, things like that. And there's like different themes for the class. So the theme of my class was violence and protests in America. And we talked a lot about the civil rights movement and a lot of things throughout US history. And then you could pick any kind of topic towards the end and write like a 25 to like 30 page paper about it. And I ended up choosing the Attica prison uprising. It was about like 1971 when that happened. There was a lot of racial injustice in the prison, and they fought back against like the correctional officers and things like that. So I wrote the paper about that. But then Jen and I are also taking a class called Studies in Crime and Social Justice in the sociology department. And I'll pass it back to Jen after this, but like we love this class. It's with a defense attorney, and she actually went to BC as well. And she is awesome. All of our entire class, it's Monday nights. Midterm tomorrow, we'll see. But basically we just have like a lot of open discussion. It's text-based. I bought all the textbooks because they're so interesting to read. We have like real life conversations, and I feel like I'm actually like learning so much about the world and about the US like justice system and how corrupt it is in that way. But it's really, really, really cool to be able to hear from someone who is a defense attorney fighting for people every day, and she takes calls sometimes during class. You can tell she's like, and Jen and I weren't even in the class. That's really cool because we weren't in the class. We couldn't get into the class, and we showed up on the first day, and we were like, please let us in. She was like, okay, guys, like raise your hand if you're trying to like over enroll into the class because it was full. There was like 7 hands. I turned to Jen. I was like, we're screwed. And she was like, you're fine. Like everyone's in, it's fine. That just shows like how much she just wants everyone to like be engaged in these conversations. Like, why should she shut her door to someone who's like trying to learn about the criminal justice system and how to reform it? So that was something that was really special. I was like, this is what BC is all about. But yeah, we absolutely love that class, and it's a lot of discussion based, and we're learning a lot of important concepts.
Yeah, and I'll pass it to Armani and Zaina in a second too, to talk about your favorite class. But it's just another cool thing that our professor has connections in the Massachusetts area as well. So we had the assistant to the DA come in and talk to us, and we were able to just ask any question we wanted to, like no filter, anything like that. And again, that's how you get that like hands-on learning experiences. These professors are amazing. They know a lot about their topic, but they also have connections with different people and things like that. So you really are able to get connected with other people, or they can connect you with someone else. But yeah, Saina and Armani, if both of you also want to share your favorite class.
Yeah, so sorry. My favorite class so far has been, it's called Deviance and Social Control. It was one of our electives that I took during COVID. And it was very discussion heavy, which I was surprisingly loved because it was during COVID. It was mostly virtual. So it was really hard to navigate that at first. I wasn't sure what to expect, but my professor did a really good job of keeping us all involved, motivated. He asked really interesting questions, and the class focused on basically the boundaries between what's considered normal and what's considered deviant, and how like the media and different institutions in society like create and shape our understanding of what is like normal and what is other. And it just put everything in a new perspective for me. And law is something I've always considered going into. It's one of my career choices. So it was just really interesting to hear about it from this perspective. And I really enjoyed that class. I really recommend it.
Well, I'm gonna share one that's not necessarily tied to my major, but I'll say Pulse was an amazing class and an amazing experience for me. So that's actually a pretty popular class at BC, but something that's usually taken your sophomore year. At BC, we have a philosophy and theology requirement. So it's two semesters of each, but we do have this class called Pulse, where it's a year-long course where you're in class about 3 times a week. And you're pretty much having like 2 like normal style classes and probably 1 discussion per week, but then you're also going into like the city of Boston or neighboring areas and doing service for 12 hours per week. So that was just like an amazing experience my sophomore year, and I loved it. Coming into BC, never really would have thought of taking a philosophy or theology course, and thought it would have been fun or cool. But it was really nice to actually like learn these concepts and then actually having like real world experiences where we're applying the material we're learning to our own lives and our service areas. And I also did service at this 3rd through 8th grade all boys Jesuit school called Nativity Prep. And that was an awesome experience. It was all boys of color and low income students at that. They're providing Jesuit educations for them. And they were just like all extremely intelligent, just very well-rounded kids, and just knew so much about the world at such a young age. So it was an awesome opportunity just to like have like the hands-on experience, and then go into class and speak about like my service experiences, also just like things that we're learning about the world through our service as well.
Awesome, thank you so much. So these are examples of classes that you can look forward to if you choose to come to BC. And on that note, we have majors that are offered at pretty much every school between all of us here. So if one of you or two of you to kind of wrap us off can talk about why you chose BC, why BC out of all the other schools you looked at, or maybe you just looked at BC in general.
I can start with this one. So definitely like one thing I spoke about very early on in my this conversation was just like the care that people had for you at BC. So I remember when I was going through the admissions process, it was like once again, I mentioned earlier, I'm first gen, so that was just like a very confusing process, a lot going on, a lot of different schools I'm hearing back from, but it was really hard to like know like which one was the fit for me. And I'll be honest with you, BC was definitely not like one of those like top 3 schools on my radar. And a big part of it was just because I wasn't as knowledgeable about BC or schools like that either. So it's just like very new experience to me. So I remember when it came down to, I remember I was thinking about the last 2 schools I was thinking about was BC and another school in the Boston area. And I remember coming down to Boston and visiting these schools with my mom. And it was like such just like a faith moment to me, at least. So I'm literally in an Uber on my way to BC, and I get this random email from Howard Singer, which is our admissions counselor for the Bronx and in the Harlem area, well, Manhattan area of New York City. And he obviously has like a whole bunch of other areas as well. And he randomly emails me. He's like, "Hey, Armani, I know you haven't made a decision on BC yet, or just like, through the college process yet. So if you'd like to have a conversation about it, we could definitely set up a phone call or, or email me any questions if you'd like to." So I emailed him right back. I'm like, "I'm actually in an Uber on my way to campus. So if you'd like to have that conversation in person, we definitely can." So we actually did end up having that. He was very responsive. He emailed me right back. He invited me to Devlin, which is where our admissions office is. And me, him, and my mom ended up speaking for like maybe an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, literally about like just my experiences leading up to BC, how the college process was going for me, like who I was, what was home like for me in high school, and a whole bunch of different topics. And at that moment, like it definitely just felt right, where I knew if I were to attend this school, I would definitely feel loved and cared for. And that was just the theme of these 4 years for me, especially as I go into my school. As long as I'm in my senior year now, I could definitely say that that's something that has been felt through Howard Singh and so many other people here. So I definitely made the right decision when it came to that. And yeah, it was just one of those things where like it just felt right when I was on campus having these conversations with people. Like there was no question at that point that BC was a place for me. Now looking back, 4 years in, no regrets.
Thank you so much. I think that's a beautiful place to kind of end our conversation today. So I do just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. I'm actually going to share my screen with our contact information so that you can have this. If you have any like follow-up questions, feel free to reach out here to any and all of us. And honestly, we would love to answer your questions. We also have other themed virtual programs that we're going to have. You can find those at bc.edu/visit. That's that website right there. If you just want to take a picture of this contact page real quick. We have a couple other ones coming up. For example, our next one is going to be next Sunday. We have AHANA Student Experience, Campus Resources, Involvement, and Community. And that's October 24th, so next Sunday at 6 p.m. But we really hope that we were able to kind of answer your questions, give you a little bit more insight about how finding your major and that entire process goes, and all the opportunities that come with all of that. So again, thank you so much. We are happy to have you here, hopefully, and hope you have a great night.